few months ago, I was at a meeting where someone opined Leviticus is boring. I couldn't disagree more. Written roughly 3,000 years ago, it speaks about human interaction and the repair of wrong through a series of fascinating rituals. And while the loss of animal life of the text is horrifying to us, the representation of the harm that comes from transgression and the efforts to maintain holiness in the face of messy humanity resonates through all times and place. Leviticus 5, at the end of today's Parsha, contains a particularly powerful passage. Starting at line 20, it gives the example of people who act deceitfully when holding a deposit or pledge from someone else. Later rabbis will give us the example of someone who is looking after their neighbor's cow, but then sells it before they come back from their trip. How many of us have asked our neighbor to look after our lawn or a pet while we are away? But the text goes on to more Sorry, I always have trouble pronouncing this word. Egregious. I can't tell you how many times I practiced that in the car coming here. Robbery or fraud. How about finding a lost item, like that you like, only to lie about the find when the owner comes looking? Surely none of us have done that, but it's relatable. It's also relatable when the finder swears up and down that they have no knowledge of the item. Caught in the first deception, a person easily moves into protective mode and further denial. But that last situation opens the door. The person has inwardly realized their guilt when they deny it with their oath. I swear to God, I know nothing. Our text realizes the red line. By bringing the deity into the denial, they have metaphorically trespassed into the sacred realm and threatened the peace that the community enjoys. So our text goes on, telling us to restore the lost item, or the goods gained through robbery or fraud, or the deposit entrusted to us, but also to add a fifth of the value of those objects. Implicit in the text is the need to go to the injured party with the compensation. No easy task. It is very hard to admit a crime. Probably much easier to bring the ram without blemish to the priest for expiation. But the text recognizes that a community can only heal when a person understands what they have done and repays the victim. It's crucial. The early rabbis, composing tradition in the late 2nd century of the Common Era, think further about Leviticus and the pro forma return value plus a fifth. Instead, in Mishnah Yoma, they tell us that the victim sets the terms. The word is usually translated as appease, but here the text explicitly says that the perpetrator must go to their victim to find out how they think the matter can be made whole. Much harder. And in an insightful passage into human nature, the rabbis tell us that a person who sins and repents, but sins again, does not achieve repentance. Nor does relying on the Day of Atonement take care of your transgressions. Only that personal interaction will make the community whole. Every day, we learn in the news about people who harm but can't bring themselves to admit it, let alone actually do something about it. And we see levels of trust erode. What I think is remarkable is the cosmology of our ancient text. The peace, shalom, wholeness of a humanity living within a covenant of ethical action. But people screw up, and the text rather neutrally recognizes that this happens. It really just depicts what goes wrong, but it offers an elaborate system of repair. The killing of animals and the smearing of blood may make us shudder in boredom, but the text has a great concern for a return to wholeness. And that is something that transcends an ancient culture's way of doing things. Very specifically, this passage focuses on how we interact with each other. It tells us that we have to do the hard stuff and face up to our actions and make amends. It is only through doing that that our communities can heal.